Module number 8, Forest Tree Crops and Bamboo. The importance of reforestation and tree crops. People have a strong and continuous connection to the land and forest. Forests provide food, wood, natural materials, medicines, fuel, homes for animals and birds, and a spirit connection with ancestors or animals which lived there long ago. Remember, this is from Indonesia. Areas that have forests need to be protected and carefully managed. These forests are the seed banks of the future. We have many plants and animals which can only grow and live in our environment. This is because of climate, landscape, and the way the land was formed long ago. Preservation of these species will help us to retain our culture and heritage. Many of these plants are medicinal, provide oil, and other useful products which can bring income in the future. The first step is to protect and carefully manage the forests. The next is to reforest and restore nature's balance. We must maintain a strong connection with nature. We need long-term solutions for keeping the environment and land healthy and strong for the future. Many areas where forests have been removed are suffering from erosion and soil loss. It is difficult to obtain good productivity on these lands. In fact, agriculture practices on these lands can even create more erosion and new problems. Reforestation and tree crops can help stop erosion, repair damaged land while providing food, wood, oils, medicines, fiber, and many other products for income. These are all sustainable incomes. Tree crops can also be integrated with animals and annual crops. Products and income from trees and forests are more secure because trees are less affected by bad weather conditions. A well-designed forest system will need little maintenance once it is established. Forests and trees will improve the health of the environment, not just on the land where they grow, but also on the land surrounding it. Healthy environmental improvements in the mountains will even affect environments on the coast and in the ocean. Sustainable forest systems. Steps to achieving sustainable forest systems. 1. Store water in the ground. 2. Protect soil and stop erosion. 3. Control animals. 4. Stop burning. 5. Forests and resource management. The first one, store water in the ground. Water storage in the ground. Water is precious. Water stored in the ground will benefit the land, plants, and people. Some of these benefits are: the soil will be protected from erosion, crop seasons will be longer, plants will be more fertile and can grow even during the dry season, groundwater levels will rise so springs won't dry up. 2. Protect soil and stop erosion. Erosion will reduce productivity by removing a very valuable layer of soil. Soil, especially soil which is good for agriculture, takes a long time to form, but can be lost very easily and quickly due to erosion. If not controlled, erosion will quickly get worse and create bigger problems in the future. Erosion will also destroy all small plants, seeds, and organic matter. Erosion on cleared land can cause landslides, which not only destroys land, but can be very dangerous for people. Future rivers without reforestation, erosion, or animal control. Future rivers with reforestation, erosion, and animal control. Reforestation and tree crops are a long-term solution for protecting the soil and stopping erosion. Making swales and terraces will help hold water. This is an important base for reforestation, tree crops, and all sloped land agriculture. 3. Control animals. Animals, especially goats, can damage reforestation and tree crops quickly. This can waste a lot of hard work and useful tree crops. Some solutions which can be used are: village regulations can be made to protect specific areas. Make fences especially for reforestation areas and tree crops. Make small fences, tree guards, around each individual tree. Tie up animals. Work together with the community to control animals. 4. Stop burning. Burning land is not recommended because it can cause erosion, reduce plant and animal diversity, destroy natural mulch, soil biota, and other organic matter important for the soil, cause water loss, pollute the environment, damage reforestation and newly planted tree crops, reduce certain resources. Many areas are burned to encourage new grass growth for animals. This is achieved, but it causes the land to become unproductive in the future. Also, burning will only encourage low-quality grasses to grow for animal food. Burning should be stopped because the damages caused are larger than benefits received. Think of better, alternative solutions to replace burning land. 5. Forest and resource management. The following are important steps for forest and resource management. Make a community management plan. Replant trees which are cut down for use. Make village regulations for community forest protection or certain areas which need protection. A community management plan is a plan for the future. A community management plan should consider what can be harvested and whom can harvest it. Control income from harvests, including how much income should return to the community to be used for forest management. Develop a working relationship with the government. Protect community land from other groups interested in ownership, for example, from commercial enterprises. Use forest resources wisely. Beneficial forest resources include seeds, medicines, oils, bamboo products, honey, and much more. Smaller community groups, like women's groups and youth groups, can compile information and important guidelines regarding land and forest management. This information can be passed on and discussed at community meetings so that knowledge and ideas can be included in community management plans. Collecting firewood can cause huge losses to existing trees. Collecting firewood is also hard work which takes up a lot of time. Finding alternatives to firewood is important because by reducing the use of firewood, a lot of time and energy will be saved. While protecting the forest, take into consideration changes such as planting trees around the house, which can be used as firewood. This could even be living fences. Using stoves and ovens which use less firewood or none at all, like charcoal stoves. Beware, international companies are looking to our forests to make money for themselves. This could be from harvesting forest resources or clear-cutting for commercial purposes, such as for farming land or other reasons. Short-term jobs and small amounts of money will never be able to replace the wealth and value contained in forests. Commercial companies will always take most of the money and benefits. This is how they work. This is already happening in many countries all over the world, and it is causing huge problems and destruction. Any plantation should be separate from the forest area, and forests should never be replaced by plantations. Our beautiful forests and environment can be an important asset in the future, such as for ecotourism, which is more sustainable and can provide many more jobs and local income than logging and plantations can. Making swales. A swale is a trench that is dug on contour with the land, at an equal level above sea level along a slope. The soil and rocks dug from the trench are put just below the trench to form a long mound. This forms a level line from one end of the swale to the other end. Swales can also be small walls built from rocks, branches, or other materials. Usually swales are dug on a hillside, one below the next. Terraces are similar to swales, but swales are better at stopping erosion, catching and storing water, soil, and mulch, and they function faster. Swales will help to improve soil, catch water, and stop erosion. Swales create new microclimates on the land, which means they provide new areas for planting all kinds of crops. Swales can be used for different combinations as well, like combining vegetables, trees, and animals, so more variety of produce can be harvested. Swales provide long-term productive solutions for sloped lands and can be used for small or large amounts of land. A newly planted terrace. Different types of plants are then added. Swell sizes. On gentle slopes, swales need to be wider in size, about 3 to 10 meters depending on the situation. However, on steep slopes, swales are much smaller in size, about 1 to 2 meters, because water flows faster. Size also depends on what you want to plant. For vegetables, swales can be made closer together, and for trees, further apart. If the land is extremely steep, water will flow very fast. Because of this, it is better not to dig swales because the water will destroy the newly built swales. The best way to make swales on steep land is by planting fast-growing trees on contour. The same contour is used to dig swales. The trees need to be planted close together so they will grow into a living swale which will slow water and reduce erosion. Rocks, tree branches, or other materials can be placed against the living swales to help hold more soil and water. Eventually the soil will build up behind the trees and form a small terrace. Vine plants like pumpkin, loofah, and passion fruit can be planted on the newly formed terrace. On contour, not on contour. Marking a contour line. Swales must be made on contour. If not, water will flow into the swales and damage the lower part of the swale, especially during the wet season. If swales are on contour, water will be held in the swale and will soak into the soil evenly. Making an A-frame. An A-frame is a measuring tool made of wood or bamboo, which is used to help make swales which are on contour. This tool is about 2 meters high and shaped like the letter A. A-frames are very easy to make and use. Materials needed: 2 equal lengths of bamboo or wood about 2 meters long. 1 length of bamboo or wood for the crosspiece about 1 meter long. 2 meters of string or rope. Hammer and cutting tool. Rope or binding wire. 1 small rock. A pencil or marker. Constructing an A-frame. Shape an A from the bamboo or wooden sticks. Make sure that the crosspiece is the same distance from the top on both sides. Tie the sticks together. Tie string or rope to the top of the A-frame and tie the rock to the bottom of the string. The rock must be positioned just below the crosspiece. Stand the A-frame on flat ground and mark the ground where the legs are positioned. Mark the crosspiece with a pencil or marker exactly where the string touches it. Turn the A-frame around and place the legs on the markings already made on the ground. Again, mark the crosspiece exactly where the string touches it. The A-frame is exactly level when the string is in the middle of the 2 marks. Mark the middle. Using an A-frame. Step 1. Observe the area where swales are to be made. Decide how many swales will be made and which areas of the land will be used. Remember to consider swell size and the distance between swales. Step 2. Start at the top swale. Cut down tall grasses or weeds which may obstruct contour line markings. Step 3. Place the A-frame on the ground. Position it so that the string touches the middle marking on the crosspiece. The A-frame is now on contour. Place 2 stakes where the A-frame's legs mark to form the beginning of a contour line. Step 4. Swing the A-frame around with 1 leg still in place where a stake is marking. Then repeat step 3. Eventually a line will form along the hillside. This is the contour line. Step 5. Start on the next line. Continue until all the contour lines needed are marked out with stakes. Smart ideas. When using an A-frame, it is a lot easier and faster with 2 people. 1 person can operate the A-frame, while the other can mark out the contour line with stakes. Don't place either legs of the A-frame on rocks, mounts, or in holes, because this can make the line inaccurate, which could cause problems later on. Constructing swales. There are 3 main types of swales. 1. Trench swales. Swales are called trench swales if trenches are dug. Then soil and rocks that are dug up are placed below the trench to form a mound. 2. Plowed contour lines are when a line is plowed along the marked contour line. 3. Rock swales are made from rock mounds or walls without digging. Usually rock swales are made where the land is too hard to dig. There are many rocks available. There is a very steep slope. So that's trench swales, plowed contour lines, and rock swales. Which type of swale you use is up to you. If needed, you can use all three types of swales on the same land. All types of swales should be planted with thick, fast-growing legumes as soon as possible to hold the soil, provide tree terraces, provide fertilizer and nitrogen. On very steep slopes, on gentle slopes, to help control erosion, wood and rocks can be added. Trench swales. Okay, they're going to go through the three types. Trench swales. Always start making the swales from the top. Dig the trench above the contour line, then make an even mound below the trench. The trench size depends on the slope of the land. On very steep slopes, trenches can be made about 0.5 meters wide and 30 centimeters deep. On gentle slopes, trenches can be made about 1 meter wide and 40 to 50 centimeters deep. Continue until all the trenches are dug and the swells are formed. For best results, make all the swells about the same size and shape. This will help water flow into the swell and not along the swell. This can be easily tested. Flow water into the swell when it is almost finished and observe where the water flows. Make changes if necessary to make the bottom even. If there is no water available, wait until the first rain to observe water flows. The more accurate in size, the better. Smart ideas. The higher the mounds, the better. To make the mounds higher, first place rocks and dry branches, and then put the soil on top. To protect the soil mounds from erosion, add a thick layer of mulch. It is good to mulch the trenches as well. Plant the mounds as soon as possible. Use vegetables, trees, or vine plants. The swales will catch and store rainwater, especially in the wet season, which will help supply water in the dry season. However, plan for what could happen in extreme conditions, like what could happen in very heavy rains. If swale water overflows, or if the slope is steep and water flows out of control during the wet season. Problems caused by extreme conditions are minimized if the swales are made on contour. This will also prevent water from collecting in one spot. Water collecting in one spot could break the swale. In preparation for overflow water, make one end of each mound lower. This will make water flow in the direction you want it to if the water reaches a certain height. Place rocks around the mound's overflow points to prevent erosion. A hole dug near the overflow point will catch soil from the water before it flows out. This will help even more to reduce erosion. The soil which is caught is good quality. It can be dug out and reused. The overflow water from one swale can be run into the next swale, which can then run into the next swale, and so on. Eventually, water can be run into aquaculture ponds or water storage ponds. Plowed contour lines. This is a very simple method. It is just plowing along the contour lines. Plowing can be done using a buffalo plow, hand tractor, or anything else that will work. The plowed line should be made just before the wet season, so at the beginning of the wet season it will be ready for planting. Plowing contour lines takes only a small amount of time, so it is good to use this method for large areas of land. However, it will take much longer to show results, sometimes up to 1 to 2 years. Rock swales. Rock swales are good to use on land with many rocks or where the soil is too hard to dig. Rock swales can be used on large areas of land, steep slope land, or very small, tight areas of land. The way to make rock swales is very simple. After planning how many swales you want to make, just build rock mounds or small rock walls along the contour line to form the swales. These rock swales can be knee-high on an adult, or if possible, even waist-high. Making rock swales. Rock swales create natural terraces. Eventually, soil will wash down the slope with rain and be stopped by the rock swales. This process will create terraces. After the terraces begin to form, the swales can be slowly raised higher. Plant legume trees as soon as possible on the newly formed terraces. The trees will improve the soil, provide fertilizer and mulch, as well as provide shade for other crops later on. In the future, if you need more space for other plants, some of the legumes can be removed. Smart ideas. Place larger rocks at the back of the swale, on the bottom side, and smaller rocks at the front of the swale, on the top side. Smaller rocks will hold more soil and water than larger ones. Rock swales are natural fences for animals, like buffalo and cow, to control the areas where they eat. If necessary, gates can be made so that animals can pass through. This can also be used for goats, but goats might climb over the rocks, so other forms of fencing will also be needed. Planting small swales. See Area 1, Area 2, Area 2. All right, planting small swales. During the wet season, Area 1, taro, water spinach, watercress, and other water plants can be planted along the bottom of the trenches. Plants that like water but don't like being underwater can be planted along the edge of the trenches, for example, lemongrass. Area 2. Other vegetables and small plants can be grown on top and below the mounds, such as tomato, eggplant, pumpkin, cassava, capsicum, and corn. During the dry season, if there is enough water available, you can continue to use the same planting ideas as for during the wet season. If only a small amount of water is available, the trenches can be used to plant vegetables, and the mounds can be used for planting long-term plants, like cassava, banana, and eggplant. If there is no water available, mulch the land and wait until the next wet season. Some long-term crops can still be grown and will grow a lot better than without swales because swales still hold some a small amount of some water in the soil. Small animals can also be integrated into this system. Remember to use soil improvement techniques to achieve the best results from swale gardens. Smart ideas. Swale trenches can also be used as compost trenches. For more information about compost, see Module 4, Healthy Soil. Planting large swales. On large swales, many different crops can be planted, from perennial trees to annual vegetables. Animals can also be integrated. The more diversity of crops and animals you have, the better. The types of crops you choose is up to you, as long as those crops can grow well in your area and will provide sources of income, such as food, wood, oil, and other resources. Beware. Introducing new types of plants, especially from overseas, could become a problem in the future. First, find out if the new plant could become a weed and compete with local plants. If the new plant can introduce new pests or disease. If the new plant has caused problems before in other countries. This is important for protecting our environment and resources for the future.